It's certainly not the first time on this channel I've gone back on my word, but there's more and more reports growing that Apple is really going forward with this foldable approach, and even spending time now with iOS 27 optimizing more foldable features, so I thought now would be a good time to reflect back as to why exactly I've kind of flipped on the foldable subject, and why I'm actually pretty excited for Apple to go in this new direction. Let's begin. A lot of you may have the initial thought of just, oh, he's an Apple sheep, so of course when Apple starts doing it, it's exciting, and when it was just Samsung doing it, it was boring and gimmicky and unnecessary, but the truth is, I don't know. I'm bored. I'm tired of this. Everything's the same. It's the exact same phone every year. People act excited. It's not any different. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Oh, just kidding. No. Actually, I do stand by a lot of what I said. Before watching this video, I went back and saw a lot of my reasoning for being so anti-foldables back in 2019. I'm a changed man. I'm, for one, much lighter than I used to be. And I think it's worth mentioning, while Samsung has been doing foldables for many years, they have come a long way. I'm not trying to discredit them in this video. I'm actually giving them quite a bit of props that in the beginning, there were a lot of compromises. I mean, for one, yes, of course, foldables are more expensive, but if you recall way back when Samsung was just starting out with them, I ordered one and they straight up canceled it because the review units that were going out to early influencers actually started breaking within a few days of use. And back then, foldables had way more compromises than they do now. In the early days, we had very thin outside screens with giant bezels, and flash forward to today, and we've got many companies doing foldables now, including Google, Oppo, OnePlus, and Xiaomi. Everybody's got their own take on a foldable, and thankfully, thanks to years of refinement, there are definitely a lot less compromises than there used to be. Now we've reached a point where seeing the outside screen of a foldable is almost identical to the same size and quality of screen you get on a normal non-folding phone, and also the creases on the inside display used to be extremely noticeable, and there were a lot of concerns when it came to durability with the hinge and using it over time, but since then, a lot of improvement has gone into screens and making them look good, even when they have to move repeatedly like they do on a foldable. So I'm not saying I was wrong with foldables in the past, because I do think they had a lot of shortcomings early on, but I will correct my earlier, younger self by saying I didn't have as much imagination for the future of it. I looked at it as a fad, I looked at it as more of a gimmick, and over time I started to say, okay, this is a segment of the market that might stick around, like kind of the Galaxy Note series. Some people want to have a stylus, but obviously most people don't. And now I'm coming more on board to the idea that foldables are probably here to stay. I don't think they're necessarily going to replace all regular phones. I still think the everyday consumer is probably going to just prefer the cheaper, more basic overall glass rectangle, but the pros and the techies out there, I think, could be a lot more interested in them, knowing that there's fewer and fewer compromises over the years with the outside screen, with the durability, with the creases, and honestly, to a certain extent, the pricing. Like, no, I don't think folding phones are actually going to reach price parity with non-folding phones, but I will say they haven't increased in price that much relative to how normal glass rectangle phones have come up quite a bit. So back when the first Galaxy Z Fold came out and it was like $1,800, that sounded like a lot of money, but now we've kind of got used to some of the best-selling iPhones creeping into $1,100, $1,200 before a case and storage options. Now, the idea of stretching from $1,200 to $2,000, I don't know, for some reason that doesn't feel as crazy as it used to me, but I also used to say when I was younger, you were far better off just buying a big iPad and a normal iPhone, which would have a better camera, better displays, and better battery. But as I've gotten older, I guess I've come around to the idea of, well, I don't want to hug around my laptop and an iPad. I need Mac OS, and my MacBook Pro is just far more utility than an iPad can handle, but it would be nice to have a touch-optimized interface that allowed me to do split-screen multitasking, unlike what my iPhone can do, but can still fit in my pocket, and also could be a great viewfinder for when I'm recording these kinds of videos, so I could utilize that outside screen as I'm recording and make sure everything is working properly, make sure it doesn't stop recording, and make sure I'm basically basically just in the frame properly because I'm shooting these by myself. I also think the pricing of foldables has become more and more digestible to me because I know a bunch of people are just paying monthly for these devices anyway. They get them through carrier deals and they often trade in fairly high value iPhones now, so most people probably aren't going to be paying $2,000 for an iPhone that folds. A lot of them are probably going to be paying 40, 50 bucks a month for it, or trading in their old phone and then paying $1,200, which I don't know is pretty close to what a full price new iPhone is costing these days. If you want the big screen and you want the best of the best, obviously I don't think it's going to be the budget friendly option, quite the opposite. But zooming out the big picture here, the other reason I guess I've come around on foldables is because year over year the regular iPhone upgrades have become so stale. Maybe I wasn't joking as much as I thought earlier in the video. Yeah, like we've really reached a point of refinement where every year it's just about slightly thinner bezel, slightly faster chip, slightly better telephoto lens, and all of that starts to get old after a while. And maybe the ultra thin iPhone Air could help spice things up a little bit, but to me it just feels like a lot of compromises for not much of a real cost savings. It's all just about weight savings, which most people use a case anyway, so it's kind of hard for me to get excited about, but hopefully it surprises me in a couple months when the 17 Air launches. But I guess I'm realizing next year could be very well the biggest iPhone upgrade we've had since the iPhone 10, where they radically rethought displays and chassis material and cameras and biometrics. There was so much new all wrapped up into one upgrade that kind of carried this channel, and that's probably when a lot of you guys discovered this, and that was when this background behind me was actually real. Since then, I still feel like we've always just been kind of reskinning that initial rethinking of iPhones back then, and next year might be the first time we actually have a fundamental rethinking of what an iPhone can be and do. And the reason I'm excited for it is because I know this isn't going to happen every single year. Foldables, in some ways, are kind of like a one-trick pony. Like, when Samsung does it for the first time, that makes a lot of headlines. That makes a lot of reviewers excited and influencers get pumped. It's like, wow, this doesn't happen every year. But of course, shortly after that original foldable, you fall exactly back into the age of refinement where it's just slightly thinner bezel, slightly better camera, slightly better battery life. And I think very likely that's what the iPhone Fold or iPhone Ultra, whatever it's called, ends up becoming after next year. But maybe this staleness that we have in the tech community is what's making me kind of hunger and thirst for do something radically different. Let's see Apple's take on a foldable, even though yes, they are definitely not the first ones to do it. In fact, they're pretty much last, but I feel the same way about the iPhone 10. They were not the first company to remove a physical home button and move towards a higher screen to body ratio and start this war on bezels and even have a notch. Other companies were doing that. Apple was not the first, but they got the implementation so well that everybody started copying them after the iPhone 10, and again, we look back at it as the moment where the iPhone forever fundamentally changed. So maybe I need to go out and check out some of these more modern foldables to refresh my opinion on them, because it's been a while since I've reviewed one. But in case you're wondering, why was Drew so against foldables in the beginning, and why is he so excited for Apple to do one now? Well, for one, of course, Apple sheep, but also circumstances have changed, my opinion has changed, and the technology, as always, has changed. It's gotten much better, it's got a lot more interesting, and there's far fewer compromises than before. And yes, I will also blame my earlier self. I'm not trying to say I'm always right here. No, actually, quite often I am wrong, and my earlier self didn't have the imagination to figure out how this could become much better over time, and how it could make a lot of sense within the Apple ecosystem. So there's your answer. What do you guys think of foldables? Have your opinions on them changed over the years? Feel free to let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos. So thanks again. This is Ralph Sheep here, and I will see you on the next one.